Hi everyone. In this video I'm going to share with you what it's like to drive this classic British 1968 Rover P5b. So what's it like to drive a Rover P5b? Well, one thing you don't want to do in this car is go anywhere in a hurry. It's not that type of car. It's a car for wafting around the B roads, or the A roads in this case, at a leisurely pace. Arm out the window. Fantastic. These type of roads are definitely my first choice, and I try to stay away from the highways. One, because it's extremely boring to drive on the highways. Another reason being is that there's a lot of wind noise when you're going at speed in these cars. I think the coupes have actually got more wind noise than the saloons, but these cars were designed for style and comfort, and certainly not for aerodynamics. So wafting around the country lanes and the B roads is absolutely what this car is best at. The lazy V8 pulls you along in great style. Now, one of the quirks or infamous features of this car is the extremely light power steering. That was introduced by Rover back in 1961 and first available as an option for the P5b, which came out that year. It's a system developed by a company called Hydrosteer, which came out of Luton, specifically for luxury British saloons of that time. And it basically meant that you could use the lightest touch of the steering wheel at low speeds. And when the car was reviewed by Car Magazine in early 1968, the steering was criticised for being too light, and it's true. You get virtually no road feel at all, and whereas it's fantastic at low speeds, if you're driving on the highway, 70, 80 miles an hour, or even more in kilometres obviously, it can be, a little bit scary. You can't relax for a minute. So to say that it's overlight is a bit of an understatement. Now, this wasn't Hydrosteer's fault. They were just doing and delivering a product that Rover asked for. Rover obviously said, we want a steering box so light that you can park it with your little finger. Hydrosteer probably raised their eyebrows and went, okay, all right, fair enough, you're the customer, we'll give you that. And that's exactly what they delivered. So it must have been fine for little old ladies who were parking their cars. They must have loved it. But it certainly takes some getting used to in the modern world. Now, Hydrosteer was discontinued when this car stopped production in 1973. When it came to finding a steering system for the P6b, the 3500S, they used a completely different system. They used a variable ratio system for rack and pinion steering, which was much more stable and gave you actually some road feel. And the Hydrosteer was consigned to the scrap heap of history. The steering boxes themselves were poorly engineered from the start, which is unusual for Rover because they made very well engineered things. But there were some design faults in the power steering box, and which meant it leaked, and still does leak on most cars. even with a rebuild and new seals, it's not long before they start leaking again. So it's an inherent design flaw which Rover never really got rid of. Thankfully mine doesn't leak too much, and I haven't had to top up the power steering fluid reservoir very often at all. Another outstanding feature of this car is its ride quality. It's so smooth. I'm going over bumps. Actually, I'm going over these drains at the side of the road just now, and I couldn't feel a thing. I fitted new gas-filled shock absorbers all round, which does help. There we go. There's a bit of bumpy road, but it just soaks it up. And compared to my modern car, which is really uncomfortable over bumps, as most modern cars are, I think, these days, it really is a joy to drive. Here we go, some railway lines, and I hardly felt they were there. Really is good. Of course, what you gain in comfort and ride quality, you lose maybe in handling and steering, but you know, that's not what this car is about. This car is all about comfort. I don't want to go around corners fast. You know, I'm not that's not the idea. I just want to waft along in comfort and not get battered about by bumpy roads. So yes, we have rear leaf springs, something from the cart horse days, but you know, it works. It works really well. And that, coupled with these sumptuous soft leather seats, makes the ride quality outstanding. Brakes on the car are, you know, very adequate. We've got discs on the front and drums at the back, but again, servo assisted, and they stop the car in a very timely manner. Something you've obviously got to get used to. If you're driving a modern car and you step into this, you're going to have a bit of a surprise. But you know, they're well up to modern standards, and I overhauled them in the winter, and it's made them even better. They were pulling away, but to one side. But now we stop in a straight line with no drama. Filling up this car is quite a long-winded affair. I have to keep the trigger on the pump really light, otherwise it's going to cut off. We've got about 25 litres in, which is just under half a tank. OMV Super Max Motion 100 octane fuel. 18 and a half. That's how slow it's going. 4, nearly there. 25, that'll do. €34.93. Hello! This car has an early Borg-Warner 35 3-speed gearbox. If you have a look at the video I've just done about the interior, you'll see the as the D1, the D2 gearbox. Pulls away very nicely. It's a gearbox that wants to get into top gear as quick as it can, so it does kind of race through the gears when you're driving through town, as I'm doing now. But again, that's not what this car is about. You're not going to want to out accelerate a BMW at the lights. You're gently want to move away from the lights or from the standing start in a dignified, orderly fashion. And that's exactly what this car does in spades. One thing you're always aware of when you're driving this car is that fantastic Rover V8 engine right in front of you. Put your foot down, you hear it roar into life and pulls you along like a train. Well, so here's a good test of the suspension and ride quality. We've got a bit of road being dug up here, and although I can feel a little bit of vibration, nothing really is coming through. Bom bom, up we go. That was quite a big bump, but shock absorbers soaked it up. Fantastic. Never get bored of driving this car. It's such an easy car to drive. The steering is light to a point of not actually being connected to anything. Gearbox is automatic. You know, it's just such an easy car. You're sitting quite high up. You can see things. People can see you. And there's nothing to dislike about it at all. Well, I'm going about 100 kilometers an hour with the window open. It's an acceptable level of noise and ventilation coming from various places, but it's comfortable. Steering isn't going anywhere. Take my hands off the steering wheel at 100 kilometers an hour and I'm not wandering. It's not pulling. Very stable. Also helps if the road surface is good as well, which it is here. So we're just about to go into a little tunnel where there's a restriction of 80. So I'm going to have to slow down and put the lights on. This really is the best place, I think, to drive a Rover P5b. A-roads in the country, off the motorway, everything's just so easy, so comfortable. Just wafting along. And the only sad part coming up is that I'm nearly at my destination, which unfortunately means the drive is over. But I've got the drive back to look forward to.